Hey, welcome guys. Welcome for another live stream. I hope you're doing well. Okay, let's see who do we have here. By the way, today's live stream will be a very important one because every single major trader, every Wall Street desk, every hedge fund manager in the world was watching the same thing yesterday, and that was the Federal Reserve meeting, and more specifically what Powell said after it. Bitcoin, of course, pulled back from 76k to 69k, and that's not random. So in this video, we'll discuss all of that shortly. Let's see who do we have in the house. Let's see. Before we start. Can you guys see the messages being triggered? I'm gonna try and see if I can set this up now before we start. We live, yes. Can you guys see the comments popping up? Is that working okay? Do you see the comments? Let's see. I hope you can see the comments. Okay, as I said, in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what is happening, what the two possible outcomes for Bitcoin are, and overall crypto, and what history tells us about how these moments, okay, I think the comments are popping up, great, how these moments usually end. So grab a coffee, I have nothing fancy here, just a cup of water, grab a coffee, grab a cup of tea, whatever, sit down, and we have this important discussion today. Before we get into the specific numbers and analysis, we have YKH in the house. Some other people are slowly joining in. Great. What is no? Yes, okay, that's great. So we can make a start. So before we get into the specific numbers and analysis, let's make sure that we are all on the same page about one very, very important thing. Let's go to Bitcoin's chart. Hey Sam, you're also in the house. Welcome. I hope your guys doing well. As I said, grab your cup of tea, cup of coffee, or just water like me, and we're gonna get started. Before we get into specific numbers and analysis, let's make sure that we're all on the same page about one thing. What actually is the Federal Reserve and why does it move Bitcoin? So, because a lot of people in crypto space kind of know the answer but don't fully understand the mechanism, and if you don't understand the mechanism, you can't understand why yesterday was a very important day. The Fed, explained simply, the Federal Reserve is the central bank of the United States. Think of it as the engine room of the entire American financial system. One of the most powerful tools that they've got is something called the federal funds rate, the interest rate at which banks lend money to each other overnight. And this rate ripples through everything: mortgages, car loans, savings, and yes, investment markets, including crypto. When the Fed raises interest rates, borrowing becomes expensive. Money becomes harder to access. people in institutions tend to pull back from riskier investments, things like tech stocks, startup companies, and especially crypto, because that's the riskiest asset class. When the Fed cut interest rates, which is the other option, borrowing becomes cheaper. Money moves freely. Investors tend to take more risk in these situations. And historically, assets like Bitcoin have benefited from that environment. So the Federal Reserve isn't just some kind of, boring government institution that has nothing to do with crypto. No, it is one of the single most powerful forces affecting the price of Bitcoin, and we clearly see that on the chart. We'll get into the charts shortly. So, what are the rates right now? And yesterday's meeting, I'll pull up some summary over here. Right now, the Fed's benchmark interest rate sits at 3.50% to 3.75%. And to put that in context, just a couple of years ago, rates were near zero. Then the Fed raised them aggressively to fight worst inflation in 40 years. Now, they've been gradually cutting those rates. But now the big question is, and what came out of yesterday's meeting, are they done with cutting interest rates, or are we expecting more to come in 2026, which is a very important question for us as investors. And to be honest, almost no one in the financial world yesterday expected the Fed to change rates at this specific meeting. And that's something that was very well expected. But here, it's not just about the rates. The rate decision itself was not expected to move the markets that much. What was expected to move the markets was the language, the tone, the subtle signals about what comes next. And that's more important, more powerful than the actual rate decision itself. And that these signs come from the speech of Powell, which was very important for us. Now, I'll give you an example here. Yesterday, I don't know if you've watched the speech. I personally watched it. Powell mentioned that he doesn't have the plan to leave the Fed. And, Trump nominated Kevin Warsh for a potential Fed chair. But Powell mentioned that he has no intentions to leave. I don't know how many of you guys watched the Powell speech yesterday. Let's see in the comments. Did you guys watch that? Because if you watched that, you would have heard that he said he's not planning to leave the Fed. And upon that, stocks crashed very badly. Not only stocks, even the gold, silver, commodities overall also crashed. Let's see if anyone has watched that meeting and the speech, because in that Powell had to answer two very important questions. The first one was if policymakers still planning to cut rates. We've got Yahya over here. Hey Yahya, welcome. We have somebody who's watched the Powell speech. Okay, great. So you would have heard that he mentioned he has no plans to leave. And upon that, we saw massive crash in the stock market and gold and silver in particular. Of course, that's not the main reason, but it impacts the market sentiment. So in today's meeting, Powell had to answer two very important questions. The first one was, are policymakers still planning to cut rates in 2026, and are they moving towards the idea that there will be no more cuts in 2026? What they did, they signaled continued cut. One more cut is expected in 2026 and one more in 2027. They did that, which is sort of positive for risk assets, including Bitcoin, but it was a lot of uncertainty as well. They were not sure when is that going to happen, what would be the impact of oil. So all of this signaling a pause for the time being. And that was reflected in the markets. Markets got nervous. Bitcoin dropped pretty much. Altcoins dropped as well. We're going to go into the charts shortly. Now, the other question, which is very important, and you might ask me why, but I'll explain to you now. How is the Fed viewing the recent rise in oil prices? Now, this might seem a little bit random. What has oil got to do with crypto? But there is correlation there. There is connection. Oil prices affect inflation, and inflation affects what the Fed does with interest rates. There is currently the war ongoing with Iran, which has driven oil prices up significantly. If oil prices stay high, that pushes up costs across the whole economy, across the board. Fuel, shipping, manufacturing, food, that's inflationary pressure. If the Fed decides that rising oil is just a temporary shock, something that will correct itself, they can keep their rate cutting plans on track. But instead, we didn't see that. The Fed decided that oil prices reflect something deeper, a more structural inflation problem, possibly combined with a slowing economy, and then we are in something that economists call stagflation territory. Stagnant growth plus inflation. And this is one of the worst possible macroeconomic environments for risk assets. And Fed also said that oil impact is yet not clear. With that being said, the impact could be big, could be small. No one really knows at this stage. Did any of you guys actually expected to see interest rate cut this time? I don't think so, right? Because pretty much we were sure that we're not going to see interest rate cut. Uncertainty always results in downward move, yes. That's the main thing that we see even on the charts. Now, we're going to get into... Let's just expand that a little bit more. So Bitcoin is very... Yes, another answer, no. Yes, I don't think anyone expected, to be honest. But Bitcoin is very sensitive to this. Now, here is something that a lot of new investors don't know about and don't fully appreciate yet. Bitcoin's behavior has become increasingly correlated with traditional financial markets, especially the Nasdaq. There is a big correlation with that, and overall the broader tech sector. This wasn't the case before. Back in 2010, 2012, 2013, 2014, Bitcoin moved completely independent of Wall Street. It was niche internet experiment that nobody in mainstream finance even took seriously. But today we have BlackRock ETFs, institutional investors. We have futures trading on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. It has publicly traded mining companies on the stock market. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that Bitcoin is now part of the financial system. And that means it reacts to the same forces that move the rest of the financial system, including Fed meetings. And we see that on the chart. Before the Fed meeting on Tuesday, as you can see over here, we had Bitcoin at 76,000, almost $76,000. What happened is, because of the uncertainty, it dropped to 74 initially. Then we received in the morning on Wednesday hot inflation data. Hot PPI. PPI basically measures what producers, factories, farms, manufacturers are paying for the inputs that go into their products. When PPI runs hot, it typically signals that consumer prices are likely to rise next. It's an early warning system for inflation. And then in the afternoon, first we received this data, then we had Powell stepping in to the microphone and delivering sort of neutral, uncertain message. That meant that they're more concerned about inflation than we are concerned about economic growth. And they're not in a hurry to cut interest rates. So basically, the summary of that meeting was that cheap money is not coming back anytime soon. And what does that happen, or what does that do to Bitcoin? Historically, when Fed gives these signals, the dollar become more attractive to hold. And even if you look at the dollar index, it has been rising over the past couple of months. The last 3 months, we've seen an uptrend for the dollar. I've got the chart over here. So investors move out of riskier assets because crypto is usually seen as something that doesn't generate yield, highly speculative, and is particularly sensitive to liquidity conditions. And we tend to see a sell-off during this time in this environment. So we saw Bitcoin purely falling back. Let's go back to the chart. From 76 to even below 70 right now. Currently trading at 70k, but was previously at 69, 68 earlier today. Somebody has even expected a rate increase. Yeah, it's very possible in those conditions to actually, and that would have been the worst for the markets, a complete disaster. Okay, and what we're seeing now, Bitcoin is even lower than this. Basically, my take on this is that we're going to see a period of consolidation in the upcoming months. The market is digesting information right now, waiting for the next catalyst, whether that's going to be Kevin Warsh stepping in as new Fed chair, whether the war is we're going to see an end to this war. That's again going to be bullish. That matters for the short-term holders. For long-term Bitcoin holders and crypto holders, a sideways move is not a problem, and we've been in consolidation, as you can see on this on the chart here in this block. We've now been in consolidation for the past 3 months. And for long-term holders, this consolidation is okay. It doesn't matter because the bigger macro trend, institutional adoption, ETF inflows, upcoming halving cycles, doesn't change based on one Fed meeting. But for short-term traders who, were hoping to have a clean breakout from the strong resistance, go to the 80s, this didn't happen, and this scenario was a little bit a disappointment for such traders. If we had, Powell, for example, stepping in, and he signaled that the Fed views the recent oil prices as a temporary shock caused by the war and expected to normalize over time, that would have changed everything in the market. This would have meant that the Fed is not panicking about inflation, and they're still on their path to cut interest rates. The economy might slow down a little bit, but the Fed has the flexibility to respond. That would have been very, very bullish for risk assets. Fortunately, we didn't see that. This didn't happen, and Bitcoin crashed, reflected that uncertainty. And we can see the oil prices continue to increase, and that puts a lot of pressure on the Fed. Not only on the Fed, the overall economy situation. The bigger macro picture that we are living in right now, we have a genuinely unusual moment in the economy right now. On one hand, the US economy has proven to be very resilient at this stage. Employment numbers are still okay, consumer spending has held up. The feared recession is not really materialized in dramatic way that a lot of us expected. On the other hand, inflation has proved stickier than the Fed hoped. Energy prices are now pushed higher. As we can see, the price of oil keeps rising. Gas as well. Energy now prices are pushed very higher, which is adding a lot of complications to a problem that Fed thought was almost resolved. And this tension is continuing, and that's injecting fresh uncertainty into global supply chains, energy markets, and trade flows. This is external shock that is not very easy to respond to, and any central bank would have had this difficulty. So what we're seeing right now is pure reflection of that, and I think the market would continue to move sideways for the next upcoming months. And All I'm gonna say is for long-term holders, this really shouldn't matter. If Bitcoin is at 70, 68, 67, that should not matter. And as I said, in the early days of Bitcoin, its price movement had almost nothing to do with Fed meetings or PPI data or oil prices. It was driven entirely by its own internal dynamics. I don't know how many of you were in crypto at that time, maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago. But nowadays, Bitcoin has grown into a multi-trillion dollar asset class with institutional ETFs, publicly traded companies holding it on their balance sheets, and a lot of funds beginning to explore it. So it has now a relationship with macroeconomics, which has fundamentally changed to before. Let's see if we've got any comments so far. Anyone saying anything? I was expecting a rate increase. Yeah, uncertainty always. So generally, the point, this is a moment of genuine uncertainty, and nobody really knows what is going to happen. Nobody knows. If somebody tells you they know, probably they are lying to you. What is important here is that you know how to think in moments like this. Not a price prediction. You don't need to have a clear price prediction, but you rather need to have a framework. You need to have a strategy. The way that you're consuming financial news, whether it's about the Fed or Bitcoin, oil prices, or any macro event, the most important skill you can develop is the ability to separate signals from noise. The noise would say that Bitcoin is at 69K right now. It didn't hold the 76K, and that's scary. And maybe even everything is falling apart. The signal, that's the noise part. That would tell you, oh, price has dropped 5%, 2%. The signal on the other side says the market, with significant institutional participation, is posing ahead of a major macro catalyst. This is rotational behavior. The underlying trends, ETF adoption, supply scarcity, global monetary experimentation have not changed. The fundamentals are still there. Nothing has changed. So if you're here, if you have diamond hands, strong hands, this small price action should not matter to you. Even if you will look at Bitcoin, it has clearly kept its, you can see if I draw this trend line within the consolidation range, we are creating constantly higher lows. If you see here, this is the first low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. So far, we are in a small bull trend. Upon the release of such kind of negative, uncertain news. Yes, Bitcoin reflected that on the chart in terms of price, but overall we are holding pretty strong. So there is nothing really to worry about, nothing to panic you. Keep accumulating, because I personally see this whole year of accumulation. Perfect opportunities. If you're still not sure if you should buy, take advantage on every dip. Even what you see today is perfect opportunity. If you look at the markets, let's see how we are doing today. What's trending? We see even altcoins have not dropped so much. Yes, some of them dropped more, 10%, 15%. But overall, Ethereum is holding pretty strong. If you look at XRP 144, where is Solana? Solana is at $88, good discount. Doge Hyperliquid has moved ahead of Cardano. I know on my Discord in particular, there are a lot of Cardano holders as well. But Cardano, the progress of Cardano is pretty slow at this stage. But it's a good project to hold anyway. Cardano is a good one. And by the way, if you guys want to join Discord, you can join us. I'll share with you now the link. What you get on Discord, you get to see what I buy, what I sell, when, especially if you're a beginner. That would be very good guidance for you. Let's go here. You can join through WOP. You can get a link under every video I upload on YouTube. You get to see latest news. You don't have to go and search anywhere else for information. It all comes to you. You get to see my portfolio, research list, what I'm looking at, what are the new projects coming into the market, any market updates, as I said, news in real time, buy and sell alerts, swing trades. Also, we have a group for meme coins. You can join there as well. And most importantly, you have access to me at any time. If you need any help, I'm there at all time to help you and support you. And I have a great community. Some are experienced, others are complete beginners. So I'm sure you can perfectly blend in and find sweet spot over there for yourself. You'll find guys link in the description. Let's see if we have got any questions, anything. Let's go back to the markets. Your group is the best, really. I like that. Thank you. Well, I'm trying to really help everyone, give good signals, because at the end of the day, we're all here to make some money, right? And one project that is doing extremely well, we bought pretty early, is Kaspa. The market is red, but Kaspa is showing very good strength. It's definitely a project that you should own for long term. Hey, I see new joiners. Hey man from Bogota. Hey Phil, you guys are a little bit late today. Where have you been? Welcome. We talked a little bit about Fed, the decision, what happened yesterday. It got reflected onto the market. We see Bitcoin retracing, but nothing really crazy right now. Nothing to worry about. Those that are holding for long term should be pretty much calm. Those were trying to trade in the short term and were expecting for us to break above the 76k. Unfortunately, this didn't happen. Bitcoin retraced. Even though we've retraced, we can see we are still in some kind of an uptrend over here. So I was talking about Kaspa. Let's open Kaspa here on this chart, because I'll show you something very interesting forming up for Kaspa. As you can see, Kaspa has been in a downtrend. For the past year, but right now on this descending channel, we finally have a breakout. As you can see, Kaspa is trying to break above that. If we break above this and we start seeing more bullish momentum, this is where this resistance would turn into support over here, and we would start being very bullish for Kaspa. And as you can see, it's showing very good strength compared to the rest of the market. Bitcoin has been crashing, Ethereum has been crashing, Solana, everything, but Kaspa remained extremely bullish. Definitely a project that you should consider holding for the long term. Kaspa is not building for today. You would see a lot of project building for today, for the moment right now. Kaspa is building for the future. Something that no other project is doing. And every single project that you see is trying to do something new based on what already exists. Layer 1, adding just more privacy, or making it a little bit faster, or doing some kind of improvement just one step ahead. Whereas Kaspa is building on a complete different approach from the bottom, from the scratch. I'm just doing some stuff in the house. Good, Phil. Keep doing that. Thanks for joining and sparing some time. Make sure you click the bullish call. I'm gonna click that for you. The market is confusing. I don't expect the bear market to be short, at least after the end of USA summer. Well, I'm thinking that this bear market might be a little bit shorter because we see how institutions are stepping in heavily at the 60, 65, 70k levels for Bitcoin. They're stepping in heavily and defending those levels. Of course, we need to see what would be the impact of the oil prices and this war. They might be pretty big, which would push the economy, slow down the economy. There would be no spending, and crypto as risky asset would be the last thing people would worry about. Even institutions, you can watch the replay, and please do watch the replay of this video because we had a very good discussion at the start, very important, and I outlined where Bitcoin is likely heading based on what Fed said yesterday. So we might have a shorter bear market this time. Anyway, I personally think that this whole year would be year of accumulation. From 65 to 55, this is great accumulation range. Even the 70s, I would say. So we were talking about Kaspa, very good project to hold for the long term. Not for today, not for tomorrow, but looking ahead. Definitely a good one. And it has very strong community. If you guys go and check on X, Twitter, you would see that probably this is the strongest community that you've got out there. And they're not people who would sell tomorrow. They're people who are believers, who have a mission and who are here for the long term. This is a project that you want. I believe bear market will be a year as usual. I think same. Based on historical patterns, as you guys have been watching me, the bear market, the actual bottom, happens around a year later from the top. Our top was October 2025, so we should be in a position to see the bottom around, whether that's going to be exactly October or September or November, somewhere around Q4 of 2026. Might be a little bit longer if war. Yes, the impact of the war is unknown at this stage. Nobody really knows how long would that take and how big the situation would get and how what are the impacts at this stage. In every blitz war, there are 3 key days: the 3rd day, the 10th day, and the 19th day. We are now heading to the 19th day, looks like it. 3rd day is gone, 10th day is gone. I think the war has now been ongoing for, I think 15, 17 days, something like that. I might be wrong, but for sure it's been more than 10 days. How many of you here are actually holding Kaspa? Let's see how big is the Kaspa community here in the chat. How many of you are actually invested into Kaspa? And if you don't hold Kaspa, what are you most bullish on? What is the project that that your biggest bag is in? Let's see what projects are people holding. It's not too late to add some Kaspa, by the way. If you look, we are so far away from the all-time high. Was it 20 cents back in 2024? 20 cents. We are now at 0.40. That's a pretty decent profit that you can make. I have some. Great, Yahya. Good to hear that. Kaspa is definitely worth it. But you need to have conviction to hold through these projects, to hold through the turbulence, because we might see this project even going a little bit lower. And vision, focus, and staying with your conviction is very important in crypto, not just running from what's trending. It's very easy to run from project to project, but that's just going to make you lose. I'm one of the earliest Kaspa holders in the world. Wow, we've got Kaspa Maxi over here. Good. Very good. Definitely worth it. And how many of you are actually into gold and silver? Because what we see, the uncertainty and people running right now after oil, is creating pressure in gold and silver. And I know a lot of people are investing into gold and silvers. In fact, we can see gold has dropped quite a bit, silver as well at $72. Um, I can tell you that the crypto market is looking the healthiest and strongest at this stage. Everything has dropped so much, but Bitcoin is holding pretty strong. Since the start of the war, we've been going up rather than down. If you can look over here, since the start of the war, we've been in an uptrend rather than a downtrend compared to all the other assets. Whatever you look at, it's in a downtrend. When will be the Kaspa giveaway? Yes, for everyone who joins Discord over this month, at the end of the month, we'll be doing Kaspa giveaway. I would give a couple of maybe 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. We'll decide that Kaspa to one of the new members. But that's still something to be decided. There'll be a giveaway channel on Discord for the new joiners. So if you want to join now, you can get some Kaspa from me at the end of the month. I just bought some more gold and silver today. Amazing. They're sitting at very good discount prices. What we did on Discord, we bought silver when it was $50 and we sold at 115. I did that. Then I bought back in at $70 on this crash over here. But I already managed to, we on Discord managed to make some good profits buying at 50 over here and selling at 115. And then I bought back in at 70 and I haven't sold that yet. Silver is a little bit more riskier than gold. I would recommend if you want to diversify with commodities, maybe go for gold as more secure. Silver has more potential, it's smaller market cap, so it makes bigger moves. But gold is safer. What else? We have some Solana, another great project. Make sure that you have some Solana because that's the favorite project for institutions and also the favorite for retail investors. And the most widely used blockchain. You see every meme coin is almost built on Solana. Solana and Ethereum, both blockchains. Solana, Cardano, I already said, is a good one. Avalanche, they are doing some great progress with institutional adoption. Stable coins, SUI, my favorite one. Very good buy price for SUI, below $1. If you manage to get into SUI below $1, that's your gold zone. Definitely recommend having SUI below $1. We on Discord bought very early at 40 cents, 50 cents, 60 cents, sold at $5. Now I'm buying back in. I keep accumulating because I think SUI has very good potential. Very strong VC backing, institutional interest, very fast, a lot of apps, gaming in particular projects being built on SUI. new stablecoin launched, and mainly the institutional interest is important for me at this stage. What are you guys most bullish on? For me, Solana and Sui. If I had to choose two projects, I would choose those two. What about you? I know a lot of you are actually holding Kaspa here. Probably Kaspa Maxis. Let's see if we've got any more comments. If not, we'll probably call it a day here and then we'll come back live tomorrow with some more topics to discuss. Kaspa definitely. Kaspa is a solid one. I think it's worth holding Kaspa. Definitely. The team is insane. They are thinking in advance. They're not focusing just on today, on now. Kaspa and Ondo. Great. For me, if I had to choose, probably Sui and Solana. Maybe Kaspa as well. I would have to decide. Well, okay, there is no more comments, so we'll call it a day, and we'll be back tomorrow for another discussion and another topic. Thank you guys for joining. We'll be back tomorrow for another.